President Trump canceled a press conference scheduled for Saturday afternoon at the G20 summit after the death of former President George H.W. Bush. The president tweeted, "I was very much looking forward to having a press conference just prior to leaving Argentina because we had such great success in our dealing with various countries and their leaders at the G20. However, out of respect for the Bush family and former President George H.W. Bush, we will wait until after the funeral to have a press conference." The president is still scheduled to meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping on Saturday to discuss trade. China and the U.S. are locked in a dispute over rising tariffs kicked off by the Trump administration. On Friday, the president signed a new trade deal with Canada and Mexico to replace NAFTA. It still must pass the legislatures of each country. The president will return to the U.S. Saturday night. Well, where he faces a possible government shutdown, the president is reportedly meeting with Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi. A major topic will be funding for the president's border wall. Julia Manchester is a reporter for The Hill. She joins me now from Washington. So, Julia, I want to start with the president's meeting with Xi Jinping, the president of China. So does it seem like two sides will be able to agree on a trade deal?
Well, vocally, we've seen the Chinese and the U.S. sides really both express optimism in the run-up to this meeting. However, over the past couple of weeks, we've seen that tension still remain between two sides. You know, President Trump and the U.S. Trade negotiators have said that they would still consider tariffs on Chinese goods. We've also seen heated rhetoric in the past few months from Xi Jinping saying that President Trump's America First economic strategy is essentially doomed to fail. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But I think the latest news from GM and all of those layoffs in North America and the closures of those plants, you know, does put additional pressure on the president when it comes to trade. You know, the president did make trade a major part of his campaign platform, promised actually in Ohio to keep those, made GM in Ohio essentially, you know, wanted them to keep those plants, and they vocally said that during a campaign rally. However, you know, this news doesn't exactly bode well for him. So there's a lot of pressure on Trump going into this meeting.
Does the White House feel confident that Congress will approve a trade deal that he signed with Canada and Mexico?
You know, I think the White House will say they feel confident. However, if we look at a lot of the rhetoric from House Democrats and the fact that they'll be in the majority next year, we can bet that they will absolutely pick this deal apart, and there will be a lot of back and forth on this. You know, I think this is a very short-term victory for the president. You know, this was something he promised to do, to renegotiate NAFTA. However, like I said, in regard to China, I think the pressure is on with the closure of those plants, those General Motors plants in North America. So it'll be interesting to see how Democrats negotiate with Trump now that they have the upper hand, at least in the House.
The White House says that President Trump exchanged pleasantries with Vladimir Putin Friday. This comes after the president canceled his meeting with the Russian president. So between Putin's aggression in Ukraine and also the Mueller investigation, what is the state of U.S.-Russia relations?
Yeah, so we do see at a lot of these international summits, these sideline meetings, and I think due to past interactions between the two presidents, Trump and Putin, this doesn't come exactly as a surprise that they still had this sideline chat. However, it does come at a very awkward time, I would say, in terms of Russia policy for the president. You know, even though the president has been soft, you could say, in his rhetoric towards Russia in light of the Mueller investigation into election meddling, we actually see that his administration's policies on Russia, including arming Ukrainian troops, is actually a very tough policy towards Russia. We actually heard on at The Hill yesterday, President Obama's former ambassador to Russia essentially say that there's continuity between Obama's Russia strategy and Trump's Russia strategy. So I would say from a policy standpoint, it is a bit awkward for the president because he's really tried to strike up pleasantries with Putin in the past.
I want to ask you about the potential government shutdown. The president in the past says that he's not going to sign anything that doesn't include that border wall. What do you expect will come from that meeting between Senator Schumer and Nancy Pelosi? Pelosi, of course, expected to be the next Speaker of the House.
Yeah, it'll be definitely an interesting meeting with the two that President Trump has dubbed Chuck and Nancy. You know, we've seen that Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer has floated this $1.6 billion, spending deal that would include I guess, some concessions for President Trump's, immigration policies. However, I think Republicans really want that $5 billion deal that would include even more funding for barriers and border wall border wall deal. Democrats have been very skeptical on the issue of President Trump's border wall. However, President Trump is not budging on this promise. He's come out with a lot of victories on various campaign promises, and I think the wall still remains a big priority for him. However, I don't see Democrats negotiating with that positively with him on that.
Julia Manchester, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.